You clock in early because that's what reliable people do. You smile at the receptionist because good manners matter. You fix the extra spreadsheet, stay a little late, double-check the email subject line for typos, because you've been told excellence is its own reward, and of course you're polite, you hold the elevator, you write thank you notes, you listen more than you speak, nodding while others dominate the room with half-cooked ideas. All your life, grown-ups, teachers, self-help gurus, even cartoons hammered home one lesson: be a good person and things will work out. Do the right thing, follow the rules, sacrifice a little more than the next guy, and the universe, or at least the HR department, will notice. You might not get rich overnight, but you'll earn respect, promotions, a life that makes sense. That's the myth. Now flash forward 10 years. Who's actually running the show? Spoiler, it's not the classroom sweetheart who always colored inside the lines. Instead, you see the fast talker who never stays till closing time, the networker who remembers every birthday but never touches the heavy lifting, the clever operator who knows which handshake picks the lock. And you wonder, quietly because good people don't complain, what am I missing? Here's the hard answer, and it comes straight from Friedrich Nietzsche, or Nietzsche as his rebellious fans love to abbreviate. The world does not reward goodness, it rewards power. And the system we live in is designed to keep the well-behaved exactly where they are, smiling from the bottom rung, waiting for a raise that's always one review cycle away. Morality is the best weapon the weak ever handed the strong. Nietzsche paraphrased for 21st century attention spans. Nietzsche called this arrangement slave morality versus master morality. Slave morality is the warm, fuzzy code you were taught in kindergarten. Be humble, share everything, endure with a smile. Master morality, on the other hand, is the playbook the winners quietly run. Shape the world, claim the credit, never wait for permission. Sound extreme? Let's test it against real life. Think about Emma, a nurse who pulls 2 double shifts a week, misses birthdays, and keeps a locket full of overtime slips. Everyone praises her dedication, but her paycheck barely stretches past rent. Now think about Kyle, who sells crypto coaching packages from a Bali beach. He films 1 shallow video a day, calls himself an impact entrepreneur, and pockets more in a weekend than Emma makes all month. Does the universe hate healthcare? Number? The universe simply isn't in the morality business. It's in the leverage business. Leverage is access, ownership, narrative control, the invisible gears behind every headline success story. And leverage does not care whether you recycle, meditate, or rescue puppies. Nietzsche said it bluntly: strength defines virtue, not the other way around. Put differently, the scoreboard decides who gets called good. The polite cage. Here's where life gets especially cruel for the consistently courteous. The system doesn't just ignore your goodness, it feeds on it. Companies preach teamwork because it keeps high performers from calculating their real market value. School posters glorify effort because someone has to finish the group project when the group vanishes. Religions promise posthumous jackpots for earthly obedience because controlling the present is easier when believers focus on eternity. Nietzsche labeled this psychological straitjacket the morality of weakness, a value set engineered to comfort the many while empowering the few. It flatters you for being patient, kind, self-sacrificing, anything that prevents you from asking, who profits when I'm this nice? The tragedy? Nice people aren't clueless. They feel the imbalance. They watch corner cutters leapfrog ahead, see charisma beat competence on the regular, and sense the game is rigged. Yet they stay stuck because complaining feels ungrateful and rebelling feels immoral. That hesitation is the cage slamming shut. The just world fairy tale psychologists call this blind faith in cosmic fairness the just world fallacy, the comforting belief that virtue and payoff must eventually align. Nietzsche called it wishful thinking for the herd. He didn't mean you should turn villain overnight. He meant stop expecting brownie points from an amoral universe. Goodness might soothe your conscience, but it is not a strategy. Let's visualize. Two employees start Monday at the same company. Allie grinds on her deliverables, nails every deadline. Blake spends Monday coffee chatting with a VP, Tuesday DMing industry influencers, Wednesday floating half-baked ideas in Slack threads, Thursday volunteering for a high-visibility presentation, then delegating the slide deck, and Friday golfing with a client. A year later, guess who has the bigger salary in the corner office? Spoiler again, it's not Allie. In fact, Allie often ends up training her new boss, Blake. Is Blake smarter? Rarely. More ethical? Please. Blake simply plays by master morality, maximize visibility, outsource grunt work, attach your name to momentum. Nietzsche didn't invent this scheme, he just exposed it. Goodness as narrative control. Why does the morality myth persist? Because it's excellent propaganda. Think about the slogans you've absorbed. Hard work pays off, except when it doesn't. Nice guys finish first. Check the leaderboard. Patience is a virtue. True, mostly for the people cashing in while you wait. These cliches lull the masses into self-policing compliance. If you believe patience is noble, you won't agitate for quicker pay. If you believe humility is holy, you won't challenge the resume-inflated manager. Nietzsche would smirk and say, of course the castle tells the peasants humility is next to godliness. Humility keeps pitchforks in the barn. Here's the kicker. The elites who spin these tales hardly live by them. They negotiate, self-promote, schedule strategy lunches, and hire coaches to sharpen their influence tools. Meanwhile, the moral majority guarantees the trains keep running on time for someone else's empire. Awakening without becoming a jerk. At this point, you might think Nietzsche is pushing us to ditch kindness and join the wolves. Not exactly. His warning isn't abandon morality, it's own your power first, then choose your morality deliberately. Being kind from a position of strength isn't weakness, it's leadership. But trying to buy security with niceness, that's volunteering for invisibility. The shift begins with a simple question. Where in my life am I trading power for the label good? Scan your week for moments you say yes out of fear of seeming selfish, where you apologize for existing, where you hide your ambition because ambition feels rude. In each instance, slave morality is flogging you back into line. Nietzsche's antidote is the Übermensch, often translated as overman. He's not a supervillain, he's the human who writes his own values instead of renting society's default script. We'll dive deep into that blueprint later, but for now, tattoo this to your frontal lobe. Goodness that costs you agency isn't goodness. It's camouflage for someone else's agenda. Break that spell and the door to authentic power swings open without forcing you to ditch compassion or dignity. The hidden machinery of power. Let's talk leverage. In simple terms, leverage is when your input creates exponentially more output. It's how one person influences thousands. It's how someone sends one email and earns $10,000, while another sends 100 emails and gets ghosted. Now here's the Nietzschean twist. The system doesn't just reward leverage. It rewards those who understand it exists. And guess what the good person is taught to believe? That leverage is cheating, that shortcuts are immoral, that asking for more is greedy, that being noticed is egotistical. So while the good person keeps their head down and waits for someone to recognize their effort, the power-aware person is busy stacking leverage, building audiences, acquiring skills that scale, entering high-trust circles, and mastering perception. In Nietzsche's world, this is textbook master morality. The Übermensch doesn't wait for rewards. He creates the rules of the game, plays visibly, and owns the results. Not because he's evil, but because he understands the universe has no referee. Guilt, the soft weapon of control. If you've ever felt bad for saying no, or guilty for asking what you're really worth, congratulations. You've met slave morality's favorite tool, guilt. Guilt is a brilliant form of population control. It doesn't need guards, fences, or violence. It just whispers, who do you think you are? You want a raise? You must be ungrateful. You want to leave your job? You're abandoning your team? You want to stop over-delivering? Wow, selfish much. Nietzsche believed this internalized guilt was a weapon handed down by the powerless to trap each other. It's the morality of the herd. If I can't escape, you shouldn't either. And over time, this guilt morphs into something even more dangerous: shame. Where guilt says, I did something bad, shame says, I am bad. That's how society creates powerless people who are proud to be powerless. And don't think this is just a corporate issue. This is everywhere. Parents guilt-tripping their adult kids, teachers rewarding quiet compliance over curiosity, religious leaders equating ambition with sin, politicians promising virtue points for enduring suffering. In Nietzsche's words, this is the morality of resentment. When the weak rewrite the rules to morally punish the strong while still depending on them. The saint versus the strategist. Let's zoom in on a character you've definitely met in your life. Maybe you've been them. Let's call her Sarah. Sarah is the reliable co-worker. The first to arrive, last to leave. She doesn't complain even when her project gets reassigned. She never asks for a raise. She hopes it will just happen. She apologizes when others interrupt her. She says, it's okay, I'll figure it out. Sarah is the office's saint. And guess what? Everyone loves her until they forget she exists, until they promote the louder guy, until they cut her department in the next budget review. You see, saints are celebrated until they become inconvenient, then they're quietly replaced. Now contrast Sarah with Elena. Elena is strategic. She says no. She asks clarifying questions. She doesn't over-apologize. She makes her contributions visible, not invisible. Elena isn't mean, she's just not afraid to exist. Nietzsche's warning to Sarah is this: your goodness is being used against you, not maliciously, but structurally. The modern system doesn't reward moral perfection. It rewards assertive presence. Comparison, another invisible cage. Another trick Nietzsche dissected was comparison. Today, comparison is turbocharged by social media, but it's always been a tool of control. Why? Because when you're busy comparing yourself to others, you're not building power. You're stuck in self-doubt. Think of it like this. If you post a thoughtful blog and it gets 12 views, while someone else posts a dance video and gets 1.2 million, you start to wonder, maybe I'm not valuable. But that's the trap. The moment you accept popularity as proof of worth, you outsource your self-concept. Now you need approval. You crave likes. You tolerate unfair deals just to stay in the room. Slave morality thrives here. It tells you, don't be jealous. Be happy for others. Don't rock the boat. But Nietzsche argues, if comparison stirs envy, don't shame yourself. Use it. Envy is not weakness, it's data. It shows you what you value. It shows you who's playing the game better. And if you can learn from that without turning bitter, you step into master morality. The weak resent the successful. The strong observe them, adapt and evolve. The Übermensch, beyond good and evil. Nietzsche's solution to this moral trap isn't to become some cartoon villain. It's to transcend the moral categories entirely. Enter the Übermensch. Now, a lot of people misunderstand this term. They think it means some macho, heartless dictator. But Nietzsche's Übermensch isn't about domination. He's about liberation. He's the person who creates his own values, who doesn't just react to the world, but shapes it. He doesn't reject goodness, but he refuses to be trapped by guilt, approval, or inherited morality. The Übermensch doesn't ask, is this the right thing to do? He asks, does this action serve the future I want to create? He's not bad, he's sovereign. So let's bring that down to earth. What does that actually look like in real life? You were taught to be useful, be powerful instead. In school, we were trained to be useful. Sit still, memorize, follow instructions, raise your hand, pass the test. But usefulness is not the same as power. Usefulness means others benefit from you. Power means you benefit yourself and choose who else to serve. Think about the nurse who saves lives daily but has to fight for a $1.50 raise. Or the teacher who shapes young minds but lives paycheck to paycheck. These are useful people, morally upright, socially essential, but structurally disposable. Nietzsche saw this and warned, usefulness without power leads to bitterness. You start off proud of your sacrifice, but over time, that pride curdles. You feel invisible, resentful, and eventually hopeless. The system loves useful people who don't ask for anything back. But you don't have to stay in that script. You can flip the equation. Ask not, how can I be more useful to them? Ask, how can I build leverage, status, and autonomy while staying in integrity? The rise of strategic kindness. This doesn't mean you have to become cold or manipulative. In fact, Nietzsche's path creates a higher version of kindness, what we can call strategic kindness. Strategic kindness is not about approval. It's not about being liked. It's about building mutually beneficial alliances, creating win-wins, and choosing where your energy goes. Compare this to the nice guy archetype, someone who is agreeable, self-sacrificing, always available, and secretly frustrated that no one returns the favor. That frustration, that slave morality talking, it says, I played by the rules. Why didn't the world reward me? Because the world doesn't reward niceness. It rewards value, visibility, and boundaries. Strategic kindness means saying yes when it aligns with your goals, not just out of guilt, helping others from a place of strength, not from a need to be seen as good. Walking away from people who only take and never build. The Übermensch isn't heartless. He's just not ruled by the need to be morally praised. The silent killers, hope and waiting. Let's talk about one of the most seductive traps, hope. Hope sounds noble, it feels spiritual, but Nietzsche saw it differently. He called hope the worst of all evils because it prolongs the torment of man. Why? Because hope without agency leads to passivity. Hope says, maybe they'll finally notice me. Maybe next year I'll get that break. Maybe if I keep working hard, it'll all pay off someday. But while you're hoping, someone else is negotiating. While you're waiting, someone else is executing. While you're overthinking, someone else is testing, failing, and winning. The system doesn't need to oppress you when you're already self-restrained by hope. Nietzsche's antidote isn't cynicism, it's action. Not reckless action, but deliberate, self-authored movement. If you want a promotion, don't wait. Create results that make them need you. If you want better relationships, don't hope. Raise your standards and vet more intelligently. If you want freedom, stop outsourcing your timeline to other people's permission. Hope is not a strategy. Vision plus movement is. The villain. You're afraid to become might be your liberation. Here's a question. Who do you secretly judge the most? The show-off, the person who says no, the one who left the group and got rich, the friend who brags about charging $500 an hour? That's the part of you that's been repressed. You judge what you haven't allowed yourself to explore. Nietzsche would say, that's your shadow. It's the parts of your personality that don't fit into the good person mask you've worn for years. But in that shadow lies power. Your ability to say what you really think. Ask for what you truly want. Choose yourself even when it feels selfish. Break free from narratives that keep you small. You're not supposed to become a monster. but you're also not here to be a doormat. The great paradox is this: the people who integrate their inner villain often become the most generous, inspiring, and impactful because they're finally whole. Stop living by borrowed values. Nietzsche's ultimate warning was this: most of us are living by borrowed values. We inherited morality like secondhand clothes. Be nice, work hard, put others first. Don't brag, stay humble. These rules sound noble. But Nietzsche asks, who do these rules really benefit? Do they serve your life, or do they just keep you predictable, polite, and easy to control? This doesn't mean values are bad, but they should be chosen, not inherited. It's the difference between saying I must versus I choose to. Living by guilt versus living by clarity. Serving out of fear versus serving from strength. If your goodness comes from fear of being bad, it's not goodness, it's obedience. The real path Nietzsche points toward? Reclaiming your inner compass, building values that serve the life you're here to live, not the life others expect you to. From approval seeker to power builder. So how do we actually do that? How do we stop being approval seekers and start becoming builders of power, purpose, and personal sovereignty? Let's break it into 3 tactical shifts. 1, from how do I look to what am I building? Approval seekers obsess over image. Do they like me? Did I sound too confident? What if they think I'm selfish? Power builders focus on impact. Did this move me closer to my vision? Did I create something of value? Did I act in alignment with my deeper goals? The world is full of talented, kind, good-hearted people stuck in their heads, while louder, bolder, more selfish players own the room. Stop shrinking yourself to be digestible. You don't need to be liked by everyone. You need to be respected by the right ones. 2, from what's the right thing to do to what's the aligned thing to do. Right is often code for socially accepted. Aligned is about what feels deeply true to you. For example, saying no to family drama doesn't make you a bad person, it makes you someone with standards. Raising your rates doesn't make you greedy, it means you value your time. Leaving a toxic friendship isn't selfish, it's self-respect. If your decisions constantly betray your inner voice just to keep the peace, you're at war with yourself. 3, from I hope to I act. We touched on this in part 3, but it's worth repeating. Hope is the most socially approved form of stalling. It feels spiritual, but it's often fear in disguise. Power comes from movement, even imperfect, messy, small steps, because motion builds clarity. Motion attracts allies. Motion reveals who's real and who's not. Stop waiting to feel ready. You won't. Start now. The world doesn't need more good people. Let's be brutally honest. There's no shortage of good people. There are good people suffering in silence, good people trapped in dead-end jobs, good people exhausted, broke, underappreciated, good people tolerating manipulation, chasing crumbs, avoiding conflict. Being a good person by society's standards is often a trap. What we need are sovereign people, people who have reclaimed their power, who are grounded in integrity, not guilt, who are kind by choice, not compulsion, who are fierce when needed and gentle by design, people who create culture, not just follow it. Nietzsche's final challenge to you. So here's the real question Nietzsche would ask. Will you keep living as a reflection of the values given to you? Or will you step into the terrifying and exhilarating freedom of becoming who you actually are? Because this path isn't easy. It means letting go of the comfort of being liked. It means facing your own contradictions. It means being misunderstood. It means carrying the burden of choice. But on the other side of that weight is freedom. Not the kind that's loud or flashy, but the kind that lets you wake up every day in alignment. The kind that gives you a backbone when the world pressures you to conform. The kind that lets you give freely, love deeply, build bravely, without betraying yourself. So what now? Maybe you don't need to become the Ubermensch tomorrow, but you can start today by doing one thing. Question a rule you've followed without thinking. Where did it come from? Who does it serve? Is it still true? Does it reflect who you are now? That's how the shift begins, not with rebellion, but with awareness, not with anger, but with clarity. Nietzsche didn't want you to be heartless. He wanted you to be whole. So stop asking, am I a good person? Start asking, am I a true person? If this resonated, share it with someone still trapped in the illusion of being nice, being rewarded. And if you're ready to go deeper into power, psychology, and self-mastery, hit subscribe. We're just getting started.